All right, I'm gonna try to do 2 days worth of GOTB because I haven't put anything out in a week because I have been lazy and watching the stock markets and trying to do a little bit of work from home, but that is also proving difficult. The VPN into my job network is really, really bad. So I'm not going to talk about GOTB other than the fact that it is stupidly, insanely hard. These are out of order. It's phases 1 and 2. Obviously, this battle is phase 2, but it's actually the first time that I go all the way with gas and Ahsoka. That's what she said. So the markets have been rather tumultuous. There is one guy, his name is Baby Yoda. He has a different name on YouTube. It says I don't know shit, but that's fine. He doesn't have to listen, and neither do you. I just don't feel like talking about GOTB for 20 minutes. So the markets have been all over the place. I actually bought more last week. Was it last week? The days all run together. We had 3 or 4 down days in a row, and I said, fuck it, I'm going to throw a little bit more money in. I am up on everything that I have put in since March, obviously, because the market has been completely disconnected from the rest of the economy. And then Moderna had its initial phase 1 vaccine results, small sample size. So that skyrocketed, and that brought the markets up very, very high, like almost too high on the hopes of the potential vaccine. Then obviously it pulled back yesterday. Yesterday's Tuesday? Yeah, it pulled back yesterday, and it is up again today, Wednesday. We're still in a trading range. I don't know if I mentioned that the last time I made a video because it's been over a week, but I think we're in a trading range. There was some very good news, that Moderna news, but that news, as promising as it is so far, is still a very small sample size, so we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We also still don't yet know the results of states reopening, because theoretically people that may get sick from reopenings have not yet developed symptoms or have not yet gone to the hospital. Hopefully very few do, or really no one, but obviously we know that's not going to happen. Some states have reported a continued decrease in numbers, and some states have reported an increase in numbers, but all states have reported increases in testing. So at the very least, that is good. We can get a better, more fuller picture of what is going on. The testing is probably every bit as important as the therapeutics and or the vaccine, because we really need to know what we're looking at before we try to address it fully. So Moderna skyrocketed and then pulled back a little bit because people pointed out that the sample size is still rather small, which is true, but they did have exceedingly good results from that small sample size, so you still need to take it with a grain of salt. The markets really need a good catalyst to get out of the trading range. We're pretty much almost at the 200-day moving averages for most of the indices, minus the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ has been insane because of tech stocks. We need a really good, solid, positive catalyst to break out of the trading range. I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen. I think that we're going to stay in a trading range for a good long while. I'm talking like at least a 5% either way trading range, because the markets are extremely news driven. Surprisingly, Fed Chair Powell and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin testified yesterday, and that was like a dog and pony show. There was no new information out of that. I guess that was just to have it all on record because, yeah, that didn't move the markets really at all. And that's fine. We don't want the markets to get too crazy too quickly. Because then, if secondary infections or a second wave, rather, spike, then we're going to be in a world of hurt. I mean, we're going to be in a world of hurt no matter where the stock market is if there's a big second wave of infections. But certainly if the market gets too ahead of itself. But honestly, at this point, I feel like the government would not shut down the entire country again. I don't, for better or for worse, I don't see that happening at this point because the deficit has absolutely ballooned, and it's very much a, put the fire out now, deal with everything else later, and that's fine. That's the right way to go about it. But the deficit is just tremendous and astronomical. So at some point, we're going to have to figure that out. But we obviously have to figure out how to contain and control this virus first, or at least learn to live with it, because we might not be able to contain or control it for quite some time. What it means for the election, a lot of people have been speculating on that. Honestly, I don't give a fuck. I don't think that it would have been all that different, had it been a Democrat in office. I really don't think that makes very much of a material difference. I don't think anybody was properly prepared for this virus on either side. I think everybody, myself included, kind of downplayed it for the better part of January and February, and it really came and slapped us all in the face. I'm honestly more concerned right now with the amount of fraud that's going on, unemployment fraud and PPP fraud and what have you. I think that there's going to be a whole lot of fraudulent claims that the government and various parts of the government, federal, state, and local, are going to have to try and ferret out some of the fraudsters. I mean, just theoretically, if someone is running a cash payroll for their business, their employees could theoretically claim unemployment, and or the company could file for PPP while still working and doing business, but showing no payroll because it's all in cash. So I think that there's going to be a lot of fraud. There was a lot of fraud after 9/11 with cleanup and reconstruction. There was a lot of fraud after Sandy with cleanup and reconstruction. I don't see this being any different. People will always try and game the system if and where they can, and they should be ashamed, but that's fine because hopefully they'll be found out and go to prison, because there is nothing worse, in my opinion, than trying to take advantage of what is really not just a national, but certainly a global catastrophe as a result of this pandemic. So those people should be probably summarily shot or hung, but that won't happen because we don't do that anymore, although maybe we should. But hopefully they will be arrested, tried, and imprisoned. Much like Senator Burr, who may or may not have insider traded with knowledge, proprietary knowledge that he had on the coronavirus very, very early on, before it really was officially, or at least diagnosed here on American soil, to the tune of up to several millions of dollars. He's not the only one. He is probably the most renowned for having done it. And the FBI executed search warrants on his phones and devices, and if there is any reason to believe that he did take advantage of the proprietary information that he had in order to benefit himself, I think and hope that he will go to prison, and he should, because that's despicable. Again, he's not the only elected official to have done that, allegedly. There are others, but he has probably been the most prominent face of it. Yeah, I think that's pretty despicable. People are going bankrupt and literally can't put food on the table, and you're saving yourself to the tune of up to millions of dollars. So that guy, that's someone that should be summarily hung if in fact he is guilty of that. But luckily, I'm not in charge of the laws because, listen, in China they execute you for financial crimes, if only so that they can take over your estate and absorb it into the government. But that's what they do. I'm not saying that we should necessarily do that, but I'm saying that's what they do. Yeah. So there are definitely going to be people that take advantage of this terrible situation. And if you see or know of that happening, you should absolutely expose them to government regulators and law enforcement because, yeah, that's ridiculous. And that doesn't even make you a rat; it makes you a good citizen. Yeah, so we're going on like week 8 or some shit of me being stuck at home and working from home time to time and taking a lot of paid time off because I had excess. And HR said if you don't take your paid time off, it's going to get converted to sick leave. So I said, fine, fuck it. I'll just take a whole bunch of days off. I ended up taking probably close to 2 weeks off, aggregated over the last 2 months. Take off every Monday, take off a Friday here and there, break up the week, take off a Wednesday, go work on my dad's apartment that I still have to sell. So that's what I've been doing. Knock on wood, not sick. Numbers are coming down here in the city. Bella's hospital at its height had well over 300 corona patients. It is now under 60, I believe, which is quite promising. But obviously it is still out there, and it could balloon again if we do not observe proper social distancing and hygiene. I think the hygiene and wearing masks is probably more important than the social distancing, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do both. Yeah. I actually can't wait to physically go back to work because I'm losing my mind, and so much of my work really can only be done at the office. So yeah, I would very much like to go back to work. Oh, I just realized that this is phases 2 and 3 of TB, not 1 and 2. Yeah, I didn't even bother recording my phase 1s because I got a grand total of 5 combat waves because RNG was just not my friend that day. Yeah, so I'm glad we're in a trading range in the markets. I'm glad the numbers broadly have been coming down for Corona. Ohio is seeing a big spike, like I said, so that's unfortunate. I am very pleasantly surprised that Georgia's numbers are not as bad as I feared when they announced that they were going to reopen basically first, and in the manner in which they reopened. So I am more than happy to be wrong, at least so far, with how Georgia's reopening has gone. No problem with being wrong. I'm glad to be wrong. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful, because we should. But if Georgia, as the canary in the coal mine, is going moderately well, that could bode very well. Obviously, Georgia is different in terms of their initial numbers, their current numbers, than many, many other states. I know Michigan has been hit really hard. Ohio, like I said, New York obviously has been really, really bad. But even we're opening up some of the upstate counties. Downstate will, of course, be the absolute last part of New York State to open up. That downstate being New York City and Westchester areas. We're not opening up for quite some time, I don't think. But at a certain point, we do need to safely, carefully open up because, you know, forget it. Even if you leave out small private business, of which there are many and upon which the economy really depends, just looking at like state and local governments, I mean, the people that are at work are overworked because they are doing essential, extremely essential business or work. And then the city employees or local and city, state employees that are working from home, I'd be willing to bet that their productivity is considerably lower than it normally is. And that is, again, considering the fact that they're government employees. But it's really tough for the local and state governments to pay for all their employees when there's no tax revenue being generated in the local municipalities and or states. I mean, because the economy is just on pause, and that's problematic. Of course, safety and health is paramount, but yeah, you have to get the economy going at some point, even just for basic human needs. I mean, people are lining for literal blocks to get into some grocery stores or, you know, other essential businesses, and that's suboptimal. We'll say that. Again, they're doing it because they're practicing, proper social distancing, but it is still very suboptimal. So we all just have to hang tough and not lose our minds, or what's left of our minds. Separately and unrelatedly, I have been, part of the reason why I haven't put out a video in so long is because I have been playing a lot of Game of Thrones Beyond the Wall on my phone, and I've been playing a lot of XCOM 2 on my PlayStation. If you have not played XCOM 1 or 2, I highly recommend it. XCOM is available on PlayStation Now. XCOM 2 is available in the PlayStation Store. And it's a reboot of like an old game from the 1990s, I think, but it's actually really good. It is a turn-based shooter. I love XCOM. I totally forgot about XCOM, and then one of my best friends was talking about XCOM 2, and I'm like, oh shit, I haven't played that ever, and I loved XCOM 1 and its expansion, so I bought it, and I've been playing that a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, so we'll talk about Swigo for a little bit. The devs kicked the can down the road for the State of the Galaxy, or whatever it is, the road ahead, rather. They kicked the can down the road to June from May, to be expected because they only have one laptop amongst them. And, it takes some time for them to FedEx it back and forth to each other. So they kicked it to June. They alluded to a major character release. In my server, we've been speculating on who that is. I firmly believe that it is reborn Palpatine. I think it's going to be an epic confrontation. Palpatine requiring both galactic legends. Some people think that it is going to be Baby Yoda or Moff Gideon. That's possible. That is very possible, but I think it's more likely we see Baby Yoda or Moff Gideon as we get closer to Season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is still on pace for an October release. Also, if you didn't see it, there are a few articles that Timothy Olyphant has been cast for season two, maybe playing an otherwise non-canon character that takes Boba Fett's armor and kind of poses as him. But I can't remember the character's name, but it's an expanded universe character. So that'd be interesting. I would like to see more expanded universe made canon again. But with regard to CG's Toon release, I think it's going to be something bigger because they gave it a decent amount of fanfare in that post. So I think that it is going to be Epic Confrontation Palpatine. The only other thing that I think they could be doing would be Jedi Luke, and we all know that that is not happening. Could I be wrong? Could it be Moff Gideon? Could it be Baby Yoda? Sure, it absolutely could be. But I don't think that they are going to release Baby Yoda or Moff Gideon before they release Queel or IG-11, because they're going to want us to spend on those before we have a chance to look at or get Baby Yoda or Moff Gideon. Yeah, so Disney said that Mandalorian Season 2 should not be delayed because all the filming was done before Corona really hit in earnest. So the filming, or at least principal photography, is done. So that's good. So they can do all their effects and whatever else and editing while observing social distancing. And then obviously we all know that Favreau has been writing the scripts for Season 3. So that is very good. I am a shareholder in Disney, so I'm very happy that they're not going to have yet another content delay as a result of coronavirus. Because between the parks and content delays, Disney has been hurting. The stock especially has been hurting. Yeah. I did buy some more Disney when it was much lower than where it is now, just to get my cost down. All right, and that's it.